Welcome to the Hot News Channel, where we strip away the noise to analyze today's breaking stories. It is February 11th, 2026.
And if you are feeling a sense of vertigo today, you are not alone. I think the whole world feels like it is tilting on its axis this morning.
That is exactly right. We are looking at what feels like a pivotal moment, perhaps the most dangerous singular day we have seen in this decade. But here's the hook, and here's why you really need to stay with us for this deep dive. This isn't just about a potential war. Everyone is talking about the aircraft carriers and the missiles.
Right, the kinetic stuff.
We are going to talk about that, of course, but we are going to connect it to something else, something happening in the shadows.
We are connecting the visible war, the hardware moving around in the Persian Gulf, to the invisible war, the war of information, of blackmail, and frankly, of pure leverage that is happening in the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. right now.
The thesis we are working with today, and I think the evidence is becoming overwhelming, is that these two massive stories, the looming, potentially suicidal war with Iran and the sudden explosive release of these unredacted Epstein files, they are not separate events.
No, not at all. They are the same story.
Exactly.
One is the engine and the other is the fuel. I mean, what we're witnessing is the convergence of a failing military empire abroad and a massive blackmail operation that is just, imploding at home.
So let's get right into the hard data, because the situation in the Gulf has changed dramatically. I mean, just in the last 24 hours, we have been tracking the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group.
Yeah.
And for weeks, the narrative was maximum pressure. The Armada was parking right on Iran's doorstep. But today, we have reports from geopolitical analyst Pepe Escobar and Colonel Douglas McGregor confirming a major shift.
It's a retreat. Let's just call it what it is. It's not a repositioning. It's a retreat. The USS Abraham Lincoln has pulled back approximately 1,400 kilometers off the coast of Iran.
1,400 kilometers.
It has moved out of the Persian Gulf and into the Arabian Sea.
That is a massive distance. I really want to unpack the tactical significance of that number for a moment. Why move that far back if the administration is claiming they are preparing to strike? It makes no sense on the surface.
Well, it makes perfect sense if you want to survive. And that's really what it comes down to, survival. Colonel McGregor has been very clear on this in his recent assessments. The paper tiger argument regarding the U.S. Navy is it's becoming the accepted reality among serious military strategists.
The idea that we look powerful, but we can't take a punch.
Precisely. The United States Navy, despite its massive budget, despite the sheer tonnage of its ships, has a critical, almost fatal vulnerability when it comes to sustained high-intensity conflict.
And McGregor puts a number on it.
He does. He points out that the U.S. Navy can sustain high-intensity missile barrages for maybe 10 days? 2 weeks, tops.
Wait, let's pause right there. 10 days. We spend nearly $1 trillion on defense annually, and we have 10 days of ammunition in a real fight. How is that even possible?
Well, it's not just about the total ammo count in some warehouse in Nevada. It's about the logistics of the delivery systems on the ships themselves. This is a technical detail that changes the entire strategic map, and it's something the mainstream press just rarely, if ever, explains to people.
You're talking about the VLS cells.
I am. We rely on vertical launch systems, the VLS cells on our destroyers and our cruisers. These are the silos, the grids built right into the deck that hold the Tomahawks and the SM-3 interceptors.
Right, the standard missile tubes.
The problem is, and this is the critical flaw, these VLS cells cannot be reloaded at sea. It is physically impossible.
What do you mean impossible?
I mean, you cannot do it. To reload a VLS cell, you need a massive, precision-engineered crane that can lift a missile weighing several tons and lower it into a tube with millimeter tolerance. You can't do that while a ship is bobbing and rolling in the ocean, even in what you'd call calm waters. It's a portside activity only.
So once they fire their volley,
yeah,
once those tubes are empty,
they are effectively just empty, floating targets. They are Winchester on heavy ordnance. To reload, they have to completely leave the combat theater, sail to a friendly port, which might be Diego Garcia, or a specialized facility in Bahrain, and that's assuming it hasn't already been destroyed in the first wave of attacks.
Which is a big assumption.
A huge assumption. Then they have to dock, go through the slow process of reloading, and then sail all the way back. That takes them out of the fight for weeks.
And that creates a massive gap in defensive coverage for the rest of the fleet for the carrier itself.
Exactly. This leaves the remaining fleet incredibly exposed. And McGregor argues that there is no surge capacity to fill that gap. We can't just make more ships or missiles overnight. He points to a severe bottleneck in skilled labor, specifically skilled welders for the Virginia-class submarines. You can't print a master welder who can do the kind of work required on a nuclear submarine. Same for engineers for solid rocket motor production. The industrial base that allowed us to churn out Liberty ships in World War II, one every few days, it's gone. It just doesn't exist anymore.
So the retreat to the Arabian Sea is essentially a quiet admission. They're admitting that if they stay in the restrictive waters of the Persian Gulf, they are sitting ducks for thousands of Iranian anti-ship missiles.
That's it in a nutshell. The Persian Gulf is a bathtub. It's narrow, it's shallow, and it's easily monitored by Iran from one end to the other. And the U.S. Maritime Administration knows this. They just issued an official warning to all U.S.-flagged commercial ships.
I saw that. The language was striking.
The order is explicit. Stay as far away from Iranian waters and the Strait of Hormuz as humanly possible. And, get this, if Iranian forces try to board you, you are ordered to deny the request.
Which, let's be honest, sounds completely ridiculous.
It is.
If an Iranian commando team is rappelling onto your tanker with assault rifles saying, "No, thank you, I deny your request," is a good way to get killed.
Of course. But what it signals is that the U.S. expects the strait to become a kill zone. It signals that the rules of engagement are about to disappear completely.
And this brings us to the other side of the equation. We are operating under this long-held assumption in the West Fed by neoconservative think tanks for decades that the Iranian regime is crumbling, that the people are just ready to revolt at a moment's notice.
Right, they'll greet us as liberators fantasy.
But the sources we have, Professor Mohammad Marandi, who is actually on the ground in Tehran, and Pepe Escobar, who has contacts all over the region, they are painting a completely different picture.
A starkly different picture.
Right. There was that failed regime change attempt recently. Western media headlines were suggesting it was the end of the Ayatollah, but the actual data suggests something else entirely.
The so-called revolution fizzled out incredibly fast. It resulted in about 3 to 100 deaths, and tragically, most of those were security forces trying to contain the violence. But it didn't topple the government. In fact, Marani reports that the Iranian public is now more unified than they have been in years.
The rally around the flag effect.
Absolutely. They saw the external hand in the chaos. They saw the sabotage, the foreign-funded groups. And now, face of an American armada off their coast, they are rallying. National pride is a powerful thing.
And they aren't alone. This is the part that I think is getting completely ignored by the cable news networks. The Chinese military ambassador just did something incredibly symbolic and incredibly blatant.
Oh, this is a masterpiece of diplomatic signaling.
He presented the commander of the Iranian Air Force with a model of the J-20 stealth fighter.
Symbols matter in diplomacy, especially in the East. You don't hand a general a scale model of your most advanced fifth-generation stealth fighter just as a nice souvenir. Yeah. It signals deep military technical cooperation. And it's not just models. We have reports, pretty solid ones, that Chinese satellites are providing Iran with real-time, free targeting data.
Let's drill down on that. Targeting data on what specifically?
On everything. On U.S. bases in the region, in Iraq, in Qatar, in the UAE, on carrier strike group movements, and crucially, on the THAAD missile defense systems in Israel.
Wow.
The Chinese are effectively saying, we see them and now you see them. It's a massive force multiplier for Iran.
That levels the playing field significantly. I mean, if Iran knows exactly where the air defenses are, their ballistic missiles become much, much more effective. It completely negates the element of surprise.
Completely. Pepe Escobar calls it the TACO scenario. Mm-hmm. It's his acronym Total Asymmetric Counteroffensive. He says if Trump pulls the trigger on this attack, the retaliation will be, and I'm quoting here, groundbreaking.
We aren't talking about a few rockets hitting the sand near a base.
No. We are talking about the potential sinking of a U.S. aircraft carrier, an event that would change the world overnight. And, in his analysis, the raising of Tel Aviv with a barrage of missiles they simply cannot stop.
That is a terrifying prospect. But it brings up the core question. If the military reality is this grim, if we can't win and the Navy is literally retreating, why is the rhetoric from the administration still so hot? Why is Netanyahu in Washington right now pushing for this?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. And to answer it, we have to look away from the ships and missiles for a moment and look at the money. We have to look at the economic nuclear option, because if the missiles start flying, the first thing that happens is the Strait of Hormuz closes.
And we've heard the estimates on oil prices for years. Usually people say, $150 a barrel to use the nightmare scenario.
Trey, $700?
$700. That seems impossible. That sounds like hyperbole.
It does, but that is the figure that McGregor and Escobar are both discussing. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, 20 to 30% of the world's seaborne oil supply vanishes instantly. But it's not just about supply and demand, it's the panic.
The psychology of the market.
Yes. $700 oil doesn't just mean expensive gas at the pump for you. It means the utter collapse of the global financial system.
This brings us to that phrase you hear sometimes, the intergalactic pile of derivatives.
That's the phrase. Wall Street, the City of London, they're all built on leverage. They're built on the core assumption of a stable, flowing energy market. Banks and hedge funds hold these things called derivatives. They're essentially just complex bets based on the price of oil.
And the value of those bets is astronomical.
The notional value is in the quadrillions.
Quadrillions. That is more money than exists in the actual physical economy.
Correct. It's a paper empire built on an electronic ledger. If the underlying asset, in this case, oil, moves that drastically, that fast, the losing side of those quadrillions in bets cannot pay. The clearinghouses fail. The banks fail. It would destroy the Western economy in a way that makes 1929 look like a minor market correction.
But wouldn't that hurt China, too? I mean, they're the world's factory. They import a ton of oil.
It would hurt them, yes, but they have inoculated themselves. This is the brilliance, really, of their long-term strategy. They have the power of Siberia pipeline from Russia, bringing gas and oil overland.
Right, can't be touched by a navy.
They have massively increased overland oil trade with Iran itself. They are building a fortress economy that can survive a maritime blockade. The West, we are completely exposed. We are entirely maritime dependent.
And it seems like the rest of the world, especially the BRICS nations, knows that the dollar is the key vulnerability here. We have Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, coming out swinging in recent days.
Lavrov was completely unplugged in his recent interview. It was incredible. He explicitly called Trump's policies pure Bidenism.
Wow.
He's saying there is no difference in the foreign policy establishment, that the uniparty in Washington controls the mechanism of empire regardless of who sits in the Oval Office. He's speaking directly to the global South.
And his deputy, Sergei Rybkov, he confirmed the next step.
He did. Rybkov confirmed that BRICS is finalizing an alternative payment mechanism for the upcoming summit in India. This is it. This is the bypass surgery for the U.S. dollar that people have been talking about for a decade. It's here.
And at the same time, we're getting reports that China is accelerating the timeline.
That's the other shoe dropping. Reports that China has ordered its major banks to dump U.S. Treasury bonds in an avalanche. They were liquidating their exposure to the U.S. debt market.
So if they dump those bonds while oil is spiking to $700...
the effect is catastrophic. To attract new buyers for our debt, interest rates in the United States will have to skyrocket. We're talking double digits. Mortgages, car loans, government debt payments. It all becomes unsustainable. The U.S. dollar enters a death spiral.
Okay, so let's just recap where we are. The military option is a trap that leads to the destruction of the Navy. The economic consequence of that war is the total collapse of the dollar and the Western financial system. Any rational actor looks at this board and says, we do not go to war.
Any rational actor who is free to choose, yes.
And that leads us directly to Section 3, the blackmail lever. Why war now? If it's national suicide, why is it even on the table?
Because the people making the decisions might not be free to choose. Colonel Larry Wilkerson, who has been inside the beast for decades as Colin Powell's chief of staff, he just dropped an absolute bombshell of an analysis regarding Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington, D.C. today.
Netanyahu's meeting with President Trump as we speak, and Wilkerson suggests he isn't coming empty-handed.
Wilkerson's theory, and it's a chilling one, is that Netanyahu is bringing the Epstein files with him, but not the redacted junk that we see released to the public. He is bringing the raw intel, the videos, the audio, material that specifically implicates Trump, his family, or perhaps Melania.
He's bringing leverage.
The ultimate leverage. I mean, think about Trump's base. The Medjay movement is largely anti-war. They want to focus on America first, on the border, on the domestic economy. A war with Iran completely destroys Trump's political standing and his entire legacy.
The only reason he would do it.
The only logical reason he would entertain a strike that his own military says is unwinnable is if the alternative is his own personal total destruction.
Blackmail. Plain and simple. And Wilkerson describes Netanyahu's mindset as a suicide pact.
He does. Netanyahu is at the end of his road politically and legally in Israel. He views destroying Iran as his final bucket list item. It's a legacy project for him. If he has to commit national suicide for Israel and drag the U.S. into it to get it done, Wilkerson believes he will do it. He's willing to burn the whole house down just to kill that one spider.
And this isn't just limited to the U.S., is it? We have to look across the pond to the U.K. This blackmail network is, by all accounts, transatlantic.
It is. It absolutely is. Novara Media has been covering the growing crisis involving Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister. He is under massive, massive fire for appointing Peter Mandelson as the new U.S. ambassador.
Now, for our listeners who don't follow the intricacies of British politics, explain who Mandelson is.
Mandelson is a heavy hitter, a so-called Prince of Darkness in the Labour Party. But he has known documented ties to Epstein that go back years.
Ties that include staying at Epstein's properties at his New York townhouse while Epstein was already in prison for soliciting a minor, if I recall correctly.
You recall correctly. The optics are, they're beyond terrible. And yet Starmer appointed him anyway. Why? You have to ask why. It's because the network protects its own. It sends a signal.
And now there are new allegations surfacing.
Yes. A biographer, Andrew Liney, is now claiming that files exist detailing a threesome involving a former British Prime Minister, Ghislaine Maxwell, and a third party.
It sounds like something out of a cheap spy novel.
It does. It sounds like tabloid fodder. But in the context of geopolitical decision-making, it's terrifying.
Because it's about control.
It is deadly serious. If intelligence agencies, whether it's Mossad, the CIA, MI6, or even private contractors, hold tapes of world leaders in compromising sexual situations, especially with minors or known traffickers, those leaders are not making decisions based on their national interest. They are making decisions to keep those tapes buried.
It explains the irrationality we're seeing. It explains why Starmer would make such a toxic appointment like Mandelson. It explains why Trump might be pushed into attacking Iran despite the dire military reality. They're not leaders anymore. They're puppets on strings.
And the strings are made of blackmail data.
Which brings us to the files themselves. Section 4. We finally have some hard data. We have been hearing about the Epstein list for years. It's become a modern myth. But now, thanks to some real congressional action, we have some movement.
We do, and we have to give credit where it's due. Representatives Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna went to the Department of Justice. They sat in a secure room for 2 hours reviewing the supposedly unredacted files.
And what they found was, well, infuriating.
That's putting it mildly. Even the files they were shown, the unredacted ones, were still 70 to 80% redacted, blacked out.
So they're still hiding the perpetrators. They claim it's to protect the victims, but Massie immediately called BS on that.
He did. He said it was obvious to anyone looking at the documents that they were protecting the powerful people, the Johns, the clients. But they managed to force the release of 6 specific names, and I think we need to say these names out loud.
Let's do it.
These individuals are identified in the documents as co-conspirators or key figures in the network. Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikuladze, Lipig Leonor, Nicolola Caputo.
And then the 2 really big ones.
Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, who is the CEO of Dubai Ports World, a massive, massive figure in global logistics and trade.
And of course, the name everyone's waiting for, Les Wexner.
Les Wexner, the billionaire, the financial architect. Confirmed in these documents as the financial architect of the entire operation. This is so crucial because it completely shifts the narrative. This wasn't just Jeffrey Epstein, some rogue, perverted guy on an island. Wexner funded the infrastructure. He provided the planes, the houses, the power of attorney. He built the machine. And Massie and Khanna are saying this is just the tip of the iceberg.
We also have forensic analysis of the documents from Dr. G. He's been going through the released correspondence. And the coded language is, well, it's deeply disturbing.
It's beyond disturbing. It's sickening. The word pizza appears over 900 times in the correspondence. Now, of course, people can say, well, maybe they just really like pizza. But Dr. G points to the context.
Context is everything.
You have emails saying, meet me at class 9.3, followed by references to pizza, or an email that says, so many hot girls promise, that was sent to Jeffrey Epstein as well. And then there's that cryptic, chilling phrase, 30 between 6 and 7.
Right. And the debate is that a time, 6.30 and 7.3, or is that an age range, 6 and 7? In the context of hot girls, it paints a horrific picture.
It does. And Dr. G specifically criticizes the FBI's official claim that there was no sex trafficking found. He says, how can you say that when the files contain phrases like, and I apologize for the language, but this is a direct quote from the files, promise an abundance of young expletive flesh.
And the FBI looks at that and says, nothing to see here. It really does feel like gaslighting on a federal level.
It is the definition of gaslighting. It's the authorities telling you not to believe what you were reading with your own eyes. And Ghislaine Maxwell, she knows where all the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively.
And she's making a move.
She has reportedly signaled through channels that she is willing to exonerate Donald Trump and the Clintons. She's offering a trade, a presidential pardon in exchange for her silence on everyone else.
A get-out-of-jail-free card for the entire establishment. But there is a resurfaced police report that really complicates things for Trump, isn't there? A 20-year-old report from Palm Beach.
Yes, this is fascinating. In it, Trump allegedly told the police chief at the time that everyone knew about Epstein and that Ghislaine was evil.
Which completely contradicts the "I barely knew him, wasn't a fan" narrative he's pushed for years.
Completely. If he knew she was evil 20 years ago and did nothing or continued to associate with them, again, it's leverage. It's all leverage. It makes you ask, what else did he know? And more importantly, what did they know about him?
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Section 5. We are calling this the architecture of control. Because this was never just about sex. It's about power.
Sex is the hook. Control is the ultimate goal. We have some really deep analysis from Sergey at Green Med Info that suggests the Epstein network wasn't just a perversion ring. It was a structural tool for global governance.
The thesis is that there is a 20-year architecture involving figures like Bill Gates to use pandemics as a business model.
A business model for governance, yes. It's about bypassing democracy via NGOs and global bodies.
Explain how that works.
Well, if you can compromise key politicians, prime ministers, presidents with Epstein-style blackmail, you can force them to sign on to global health treaties, purchase agreements for certain products, and lock down protocols that completely bypass their own constitutions and their own parliaments.
The blackmail ensures compliance.
It ensures compliance with the global agenda. The politician might want to say no, his people might be against it, but he remembers the tape sitting in a vault somewhere, so he picks up the pen and he signs the treaty.
And this connects to the dark history of things like MKUltra. We have testimony from Kathy O'Brien. She is the survivor of Project Monarch, which was an MKUltra sub-project.
Yeah.
And her story is just harrowing.
It is incredibly difficult to listen to. She describes the methodology of trauma-based mind control, fracturing the human mind through unspeakable sexual abuse, forcing children to witness horrific acts like animal slaughter.
The idea is to create alters.
Yes, to create compartmentalized personalities that can be triggered and controlled by handlers. She describes being used as a presidential model, passed around at the highest levels of the U.S. government as a sex slave and a courier.
And she draws a direct line from what happened to her in the U.S. to the Jimmy Savile case in the U.K.
The Savile connection is absolutely crucial because it shows this isn't an American anomaly. It's a system. Savile was a procurer for the British elite, allegedly including members of the British royal family. He had unfettered access to mortuaries, hospitals, children's homes.
And he was untouchable.
Completely untouchable. He was protected. The police protected him. The intelligence services protected him. Why? Because he was providing a service to the state's most powerful people. He was their monster.
Kathy O'Brien also mentioned a modern parallel. The Charlie Kirk assassination. Now, we need to be very clear for our listeners. In this timeline, in the source material we are analyzing for today's deep dive, there is a reference to Charlie Kirk being killed, shot in the neck.
Yes, the source material explicitly refers to it as a cold-blooded murder. O'Brien connects this to the board of Turning Point USA and a figure named General Valley, suggesting an infiltration of conservative movements by these same mind control networks. The implication is chilling.
The implication is that anyone who goes off script or who builds a following that threatens the established control grid is removed permanently.
It's a war on humanity, and it is happening on the domestic fronts, too. Section 6 covers this. We are seeing a complete and total disregard for human life in policy, not just in war.
Look at the medical device sector.
Right. We have new reports of so-called AI-powered medical devices causing strokes and punctured skulls. Why? Deregulation. The push for efficiency and profit over safety. This Doji-E mentality, this meme stock, move fast and break things culture applied to life and death machinery.
And then there's Canada's MAID program, Medical Assistance in Dying, which is reportedly eradicated, and that's the word being used, 100,000 people since 2016.
100,000 people. That is the population of a small city. wiped out.
And the allegations are that it's not just about compassion.
No, the allegations are that organ harvesting is driving the profit motive. It's the commodification of death, just like the war in Sudan is the commodification of genocide.
Let's talk about Sudan. Because while everyone is watching around, a genocide is happening there in broad daylight.
And it's being enabled by a U.S. ally. Nathaniel Raymond from the Yale Humanitarian Research Lab has been tracking this. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, is arming the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, with suicide drones.
These are Shahed-style weapons.
Exactly. They're being used to hunt down and commit genocide against indigenous tribes in the region.
And the U.S. response.
Complicity. The Trump administration is reportedly whitewashing the UAE's role to protect the military alliance. They prioritize our military bases in the UAE over stopping a genocide. It's the same cold, brutal logic as the Epstein cover-up. Protect the network, damn the victims. The strategic imperative always overrides the moral imperative.
This brings us to the final piece of this very dark puzzle, Section 7. Inside the White House, who is actually steering the ship through this storm?
Michael Wolff has provided some terrifying new insight into Trump's current mental state. He describes a president who is isolated, obsessive, and constantly on the phone. But he's not talking to his generals or his intelligence chiefs. He's talking to minions.
Yes, men. Sean Hannity. Real estate buddies from New York.
He's bypassing all official channels. Decisions on nuclear war decisions that could literally end civilization as we know it are being made by a man described by Pepe Escobar as a megalomaniac who operates on whims and grudges.
And, as we establish, a man who is potentially being blackmailed by the Prime Minister of Israel.
It is the absolute perfect storm. A compromised leader, a suicidal ally, a military trap that we can't win, and a financial system on the verge of collapse.
It is chaos.
And in chaos, the people who hold the secrets hold all the power.
So let's bring it all home. What does this mean for you, for the listener? We have covered a lot of ground. It's a lot to take in.
The synthesis is this. The United States is barreling toward an unwinnable war in the Middle East. But it is not happening because of some grand strategy. It's not happening to protect America. It is happening because the leadership class, on both sides of the Atlantic, is held hostage by the contents of the Epstein files.
The hidden truth is that the war is a distraction. It's a cover-up. It's a way to, perhaps, burn the evidence and save the reputations of the powerful men named in those files and the many, many more who are still hidden.
So if you watch one thing this week, don't just watch the ships. Watch the names. Watch for the next unredacted files. And if Donald Trump gives the order to attack Iran, you have to ask yourself one question. What did Benjamin Netanyahu show him in that private meeting?
That is the question. And it's a question that might just determine the future of the human race.
Indeed.
If you found this analysis valuable, if you want to stay ahead of the narrative, hit the plus or follow button on your podcast app. Give us a like. Subscribe to the Hot News channel for more deep dives. We're going to keep digging no matter how deep this hole goes.
Until we meet again.